my name is Todd, and welcome back to Tenor Guitar Time. I hope you've had a chance to work with arpeggios so far in the C shape. Remember, the C shape is our C chord first position. That's our shape that we're working from. We learned the major arpeggio, the minor arpeggio, and the seventh arpeggio. So in this episode, let's explore some ways to add more variety to our music and different ways you can practice learning, getting deeper into the arpeggios. One way you can add variety to your playing is by making up new chord forms. Here are some chord forms taken straight from the D major arpeggio for alternate choices for D chords. So variation 1. Also fret that high A on the high E string right there. Variation 2. Variation 3, the open D string. Variation 4. So if you're playing a song you know that has D chords in it, experiment with some of these variations. Let's look at some variations of an E minor chord. It's E minor when we're playing in this position at the 9th fret with this arpeggio. But remember, you can play these forms anywhere. So here's variation 1. This is your very useful chord because it has no third, so you can play major melodies or minor melodies over this one. Here's variation 2, which just uses the 2 low notes and mutes the high strings. Variation 3 has the root note E on the A string. Sounds nice, very different than a normal E minor chord. Variation 4, you can mute the low string, or you can add that B note, which is the 5th of the E minor chord. Just be careful with this one. If you're playing in a band situation, your bass player or guitar player may think you want to be emphasizing the low B. So if you wanted to communicate E minor, make sure you tell your bandmates. Here are some 7th chord variations taken from the 7th arpeggio. So this first one keeps the A root note This is variation 1. Maybe a bit of a stretch. The major third. And there's your flat 7. Variation 2. I'm going to keep these 3 fingers here and drop the pinky down. This variation doesn't actually have the root note in it of A anywhere. So you can let that one ring out and be less defined, or have someone in the band hit the A note, or you can also shuffle between. Variations if you have a long section of one chord, so you can play different forms to change up the music even though you're not changing chords. Okay, variation 3, we learned earlier, it just adds a 5th, the high E string there. And then variation 4 is kind of more helpful for a riff kind of situation, or a little rhythmic. So I'm hammering on from the flatted 7th to the root there. Another way to practice notes in the arpeggio and to become more familiar with them in a musical way is to create a simple pattern and then play 2 or 3 note melodic phrases or riffs over some chords, and keep it real simple and kind of nursery rhyme-ish. So let's make a simple pattern going from D, our D chord we've been working with, and our E minor. To your music is to break up the rhythm when you're practicing your arpeggios. We could do 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, then go back 1, 1, 2, 3, and go back 1. So we would go 1, 2, 3, then go back 1, 1, 2, 3, then go back 1, 1, 2, 3, then go back 1, 1, 2, 3, and then reverse it. With the metronome, so your timing is tighter. All right, let's try 3 notes, go back to the previous note, and go forward 3. We'll just do one. Let's do 1 note per beat. So we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. 3, 4. the G note, the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4. Show you a couple of things my sitar teacher showed me. Hopefully this is not too complicated, but we can get a 4-beat pattern and we can break that up into 4 groups of 3 and 2 groups of 2. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 4 is 16. So we're carving up the 16 beats, which we call tintal in Indian music, which adds a nice polyrhythmic thing that you can add into regular rock and roll music. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 1 On a previous video, I suggested destroying your arpeggios when you practice them. I was exaggerating a bit, but you want to step outside of them to be creative and write a song. And here's an example of that from the Beatles. So on this Dear Prudence, we can do a arrangement of this on the tenor guitar using the C-Shape chord. And the only thing that's going to change is the bass note is going to walk down from the D to the C to the B to the B flat, while keeping the rest of the D chord in place. Here's my D chord, there's my D7. Now that's my second chord, and I'm going to use my pinky to kick that off. And when I come back to this position, remember this fingering. Sometimes you got to spend some time practicing where your fingers are going to go, so you're not doing it different every time. And you want to pick the most efficient way and then memorize it so it becomes second nature. So real slow, the first chord is this D chord, and I'm going to just do a picking pattern. D. So it's moved down to the C, the root note, now to the B. Step back, I'm going to take my second finger, and then I'm back where I started. It starts out with the picking, and then it kind of strums those same chords, and then when it ends the verse, it goes D, C, G, back to D. Now I'm using the C shape to illustrate a point about the C chord. I probably wouldn't use it on every chord in a song because it's kind of strange just to slide that one shape around. But since we're working on the C shape, I'm going to do it on this version of Dear Prudence. So 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it strums them. Clouds will be let's run that through one more time for practice. 3, 4. Now on the look around, round, round part, we're going to stick with the same shape, and this time what's moving is the third note. So these D notes are going to stay in position, and this note will go from the F sharp to the G to the A. And again, let's think about our fingering so we can make this as smooth as possible. So regular D shape, round, round, round. So the chords, now I usually use my pinky on the root note because it's more comfortable for me, but in this song it's going to work better if I use my third finger here, because then I can drop my pinky down when I need it on this A note. Round, round, 3. It's a strong D, the pedal point is the D. A pedal point just means part of the chord is hanging on one note while another part moves. So our pedal point is this D note, and what's moving is the third. I'm just calling this the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And when I do this part, I like to hit that third instead of the root, because it's moved to suggest the movement as my starting point as it changes. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's another way they step out of the key. So if you're in the key of D, the G is the 4 and the A is the 5th. So that beautiful turnaround that's a little dreamy steps out of the key of D. So it goes F, A flat, G, and then back to the top. Let's practice the B part, the round, 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 going into the beautiful turnaround, and then we'll just run through the tune a couple of times for practice. 2, 3, 4. Thanks for joining me on Tenor Guitar Time.
All right, see you next time.